Hello, and welcome to my first video tutorial. Today, I'll be painting this wooden box from the 30-Minute Fantasy option set, Item Shop 2, using a sponge. The end result will look something like this. After your pieces are clipped and sanded, I like to wash them with some dish soap to remove sanding dust and finger oil from handling. I always give my primer a bath in some warm water and shake for 3 to 5 minutes. Priming changes a lot based on weather conditions and humidity. In my area, I only have to worry if it's raining or too cold. I generally try to spray when temperatures are higher than 50 degrees or 10 degrees Celsius with a light primer, but you can get away with lower temperatures like 40 degrees or 5 degrees Celsius when using a black primer if it's been warmed and well shaken. I did my first plank on my own to practice, but I'll do my second one here with you. You don't need a wet palette for this, but it doesn't hurt to have. First, make sure your sponge has some moisture in it. Just a little bit will do. Then apply your paint. I'm using Citadel Colour / Warhammer Colour Thondia Brown. I'm not doing any detail work, so any old brush will do to load a controlled amount of paint on the sponge. My sponge is well used. I painted other kits with it, but it's not a problem for this. If you want to test the color, just use your finger. You can see a light press isn't really doing anything, so I really stamp it to get the paint to transfer from the sponge. Now it's time for the real thing. I'd love to keep this on a clip or something, or use gloves, but I think I can get away with it. I start stamping in the color, just kind of roughly going all over. I reloaded the paint just to give you a better picture of how the color goes on. You can see the color is really bright and heavy in that one spot after the first big stamp, but it will get dry, darker, and better coverage as you keep stamping. Just keep going, building up that first brown. You'll see some areas still wet as I stamped, which is totally fine. Just stamp down and keep going. Lighter paints you may need to worry a bit more about this to prevent texture buildup, but I'm working with a wooden box, so I'm not too worried. After I've got some base coverage of the color I want, I give it a minute to dry so I'm not accidentally lifting off wet paint. You'll see this darker spot is either an area I missed or accidentally pulled off some wet paint as the paint I loaded up ran out. It's easy to fix since I already planned a second layer of this brown, but it's already looking really good. Load back up, and this time I'm going to make sure that missed spot gets good coverage. Once I can see that corner is nice and wet, I move away to let that area dry and keep adding more paint to the rest. I've sped this part up a little. Let that dry for a couple seconds and keep going. Third coat's the charm for me, but this one I'm going to stamp more toward the raised planks, just to see if I can build up some subtle contrast. I think that worked. Now for the back side, it's not going to be as visible, but I still want it brown. I'll use the back of the sponge to get into these harder to reach areas. Although honestly, it would probably be just fine to spray paint this with a rattle can. The technique is all the same. I can just reach into corners a bit better with the back of the sponge. You could use this technique to get to harder to reach areas on your piece, or even tear off a bit of sponge and use tweezers. But honestly, using the right color primer or rattle cans is good enough. I'm already pretty happy with this. You can see a bit of contrast just from where I use the sponge. But I want to go further and add some more color. So I grabbed Gothor Brown from Citadel/Warhammer Colour. If I didn't mention it before, give your paints a good shake. Like with rattle cans, lighter colors may need more time shaking. Then load up your paint. I'm still loading the paint directly onto the same sponge. Since I'm still in browns, I don't really need to clean the sponge, but I usually clean it at the end of a session when I'm done with a color, or if I'm just taking a break. Since I'm doing a lighter brown, I'm kind of getting some free blending by applying it to a sponge that still has a bit of the dark brown on it. The color is quite a bit lighter and more prominent, but it blends nicely as I continue stamping it in. I let it dry for a second, and then do a couple more passes until I'm satisfied with it. Now, the big risk/drawback with sponge painting is it can introduce small pieces of dust, hair, skin particles, or paint flakes like you see here. Usually you can lightly scrape or sort of rub them off, but try not to scrape too much and leave a line. You can always go back over and fix that, but if you scratch a couple layers of paint deep, you could be in trouble. If working with lighter colors, this can be more prominent, so be extra careful and do lighter stamps with a newer sponge in a clean area. You can also try a damp brush. Now that I fixed that, I'm going with my last color, XV88 from Citadel/Warhammer Colour. Honestly, I think I went a bit too hard with this color, but it's all part of the fun. I could have gotten more even results if I'd painted the two lids side by side. I loaded way too much paint on it at first, as you can see, but I stamped some off on a paper towel. I probably should have taken a little bit more off even still. I aim for the top boards and a bit around the edge, but I'm messy here, so I just run with it. For a more focused application, you can try using the back of the sponge as shown before. You can see it's already pretty bright, but it just looks like it's been on the docks for too long, so I roll with it. I go around the edges to make it seem even more weathered. And that's pretty much that. All that's left to do is top coat. You can see I went quite a bit brighter with the lid from this tutorial. Let me know in the comments which lid you like better. Here's the completed box, assembled, top coated, and with a sponge painted dragon on top.